Okay. Hello. um, my name's Ron. If you already know, thank you so much for coming back and watching another Bleach Report stream. Holy moly. Stop. Okay, my computer. Okay. I just need to make sure that we're actually going here because something really funny just happened to me right before we went live. I think we're good here, right? I think we are good. It says we're live. I'm waiting to see the confirmation. Okay, I think we're good. So, you know, I'm sitting here getting my stream ready. About 10 minutes to go, and I'm ready to rip. And I go to get some water because you need that. You're talking a lot for these things. And I come back, and my Windows computer is live updating, and it's at like 10%, and it's just crawling to the finish. And I'm like, oh no, oh no. So then it finishes at like 6:55, and then it says cleaning up, and then we're at 0%. So if you guys can hear me and see me, I just had a massive Windows update on my computer right before we went live. I think everyone's saying, "Yep, Triple's here, David's here." Okay, okay. Welcome back. If you're watching live here on Bleach Report, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure we're getting those comments in the live chat. If you're watching after the fact, on YouTube, and I have a YouTube channel that is youtube.com/ALLaBorde Raiders. Make sure you're in that like button and comment away. I need to pull up this one article that I want to read here. And oh boy, I'll tell you right now, this is going to be a spicy episode. Now, yesterday, I talked about the percentage chance of Ben Johnson being the next head coach. And there's only so much you could talk about Ben Johnson, right? Wrong. Because I took a little nap after my day job today. I woke up to yet another reporter in the know giving what seems to be their opinion about whether or not Ben Johnson should be heavily considering the Raiders job. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I didn't really want to spend any more time on this, but the title of this show, before we get into like the colon and whatever I decided to talk about, is Raiders Daily. And whether the Raiders are terrible, middle of the road, or very good, the national media loves to discuss the Raiders. They like to put them on a pedestal when they're great, which hasn't been a lot recently, and disparage them completely when they're in the dumps. And the idea now that Raider fans and the organization are taking so many shots, or sorry, not taking so many shots, are getting so many shots taken at them when they're just simply interviewing head coaching candidates is absolutely crazy. So I want to talk about this a little bit here because we're going to talk about how the Raiders job allegedly, according to all these reporters who again are now coming out of the woodworks to give their opinions on what they think Ben Johnson should do, even though their primary goal and their primary objective is to report what they hear. The idea is that the Raiders' job is significantly worse than the Bears or the Jags' job because the roster for the Raiders stinks compared to these two teams, and because, well, they at least have their quarterbacks in place. So the people now that have come out and said, Ben Johnson, pump the brakes on this whole thing, Adam Schefter, Jordan Schultz, Jeremy Fowler, and any Chicago beat writer. Now, none of these guys have really come out and said, Ben Johnson is seriously considering coaching the Bears. Jordan Schultz was on Cowherd today and said, I'm going to pump the brakes on Ben Johnson being the favorite for the Raiders because the Bears job is still out there, and that's one to consider. Hey, Jordan, I appreciate your opinion, but that's not reporting what's going on. And the idea, the notion that the national media now has concocted this narrative, I don't think there's some conspiracy where they all got into a room and said, it's time to steal Ben Johnson from the Raiders. But the facts are the facts. And they are acting like the Raiders interviewing Ben Johnson are the kids at Thanksgiving trying to sit at the adults' table. Now, you can bash the Raiders organization all you want. They've been terrible for the last 20 years. But to sit here and pretend like the Jags and the Bears are the adults at the kids' table because they have quarterbacks in place. Caleb Williams right now statistically had a good season, didn't play a single meaningful game all year, might be the 5th best quarterback of this class because we know Jaden Daniels so far is better than him. Bo Nix made the playoffs. Drake May has showed some flashes. And the jury's still out on Michael Penix. And J.J. McCarthy hasn't played it down. Trevor Lawrence, who was supposed to be this general Andrew Luck type player, right? Right now, might be a hindrance for that organization because he's extremely overpaid for the output that he's put out. Okay? And I wish I could bring this image up, but for whatever reason, it didn't let me input it into the system here. But I'm going to read you a tweet. This is from Josh Dubow, who is a writer for the AP. Okay? Notorious criticizer of the Raiders. This is what he says. This is a tweet, January 16th. I'm reading it. You probably can't see that. Oh, you can see that a little bit, but it's reversed. Yesterday, he tweeted this. Here's how the Raiders and Bears compare since Mark Davis's first full season as the Raiders owner in 2012. Win percentage, Bears 40%, Raiders 39%. Playoff berths, Bears 2, Raiders 2. Playoff wins, Bears 0, Raiders 0. Non-interim head coaches, Bears 5, Raiders 5. Starting quarterbacks, Bears 16, Raiders 13. And Vic Tafur came out with an article on The Athletic that said the Raiders have been a circus, but the Bears have clowns, jugglers, and acrobats as well. And what's interesting is that you don't see a lot of Jags fans upset at the idea of Ben Johnson taking interviews with us because I think Jags fans know they're a bad organization right now, just like we are. The fact that Trent Baalke is still there and that they made Doug Peterson look like a clown, former Super Bowl champion, does not bode well for how the Jacksonville Jaguars look. So they kind of understand the perception, right? The Raiders are not like, I can't believe Ben Johnson's considering the Bears and the Jags because they get it. We're all in the same boat here. Bears fans still think it's 1985 and beat writers. The only thing that you have going for you, Chicago, is that Caleb Williams was the first overall pick. But need I remind you, Chicago, that in 2017, with the second overall pick, and by the way, the Raiders have never been bad enough to be in position to take a franchise quarterback, which is why they just kept rolling it back with Derek Carr. You took Mitchell Trubisky, and him and Matt Nagy went to the playoffs and won 12 games. And 2 years later, you ran both of them out of town. But we're the kids trying to sit at the adults' table. Right. Makes total sense to me. I don't understand where this narrative is coming from. And now people are saying, well, the Raiders have a lot of cap space, which is why Ben Johnson can consider them, and he can bring his own GM. But the roster that's in place for the Jags and the Bears is significantly better than the roster that's in place for the Raiders. Have any of those people looked at the draft order? The Jags are drafting ahead of us. They have a better roster in place because Trevor Lawrence is there, because he looks like sunshine from Remember the Titans. They are quite literally picking ahead of us. When we played them head-to-head, and if you asked anybody that isn't a Jags or Raiders fan, they probably would tell you that Mac Jones is technically better than Aiden O'Connell. We beat them, which ruined our draft position. Chicago has DJ Moore, who's a blue chipper, and that's it. Max Crosby, who's under contract to play for the Raiders, and Brock Bowers, who is the consensus second best rookie of the year. If you took both of those guys and put them on the Jags or put them on the Bears, they would instantaneously be the best two players that they have. The Bears have one more win than us because they beat Malik Willis in the last game of the season. So in what universe are the Bears and the Jags up here, cream of the crop, and then there's 50 feet of crap, like Brad Pitt said in Moneyball, and then there's the Raiders? They're all picking right next to each other in the draft. I mean, these are just facts. It's driving me really. It's frustrating me. I'm not usually like this on Bleacher Report. I might get this way on YouTube, right? And here's the other thing they say: well, the Raiders don't have a quarterback. Yeah, Have you guys checked the date? Do you guys know what the date is today? Leave some comments, whether it's YouTube or on the live here. What date is it today? Is it September 9th, 2025, or is it January 17th? Are we playing next season with the rosters that are in place right now? Last time I checked, we have yet to have a draft and we've yet to have free agency. And maybe Ben Johnson wants to have a say in who his quarterback is. The idea that Ben Johnson is just okay with working under Ryan Poles and Trent Baalke and inheriting Trevor Lawrence, who as of right now has not been close to the player that we thought he was going to be, and Caleb Williams, who had an up and down season to say the least. The Bears are like this darling pick to make the playoffs. But they're up here and we're down here. Right. A couple more things I want to say on this before I move to Max Crosby's comments and then a little bit on Mark Davis. As frustrating as this might be, right? And I have to talk about this. This is my job. So, in a perfect world, I wouldn't give this the time of day. But it needs to be said. It absolutely needs to be said. As frustrating as it is, Raider fans, please do not let this upset you and impact how you feel about the situation, because I promise you this, Ben Johnson is a very smart guy. Ben Johnson is not going to let whatever people say on the Colin Cowherd show dictate where he coaches next year. That's not going to happen. He's going to do what's best for him, for his family, and that's it. He is not going to let any of the outside noise. And by the way, everybody on NFL Network or on this site has said Ben Johnson feels like the favorite. He's not going to let any of this cloud his judgment. So as annoying as it is, I want you to take this as a sign of honor, wear it as a badge of respect, or a sign of respect, a badge of honor. I mixed those up. Because it's starting to feel like the Raiders are creeping their way back to relevancy before they've even done anything thanks to Tom Brady. Because, look, I wasn't alive when the Raiders were good. I'm 26 years old. But I could imagine when the autumn wind was playing every 5 seconds, probably every other commercial, and they were pillaging just for fun, and they were breaking people's heads, right, and winning championships. I could imagine that if you weren't a Raider fan, you probably didn't like them. And it now feels like everybody's turning on the Raiders because there's a chance here that they're clawing their way back to relevancy. And the last thing I'll say, and again, it's these reporters who are not reporting things. They are giving their opinion. Feels like they're upset that Ben Johnson, the shiny new toy, is going to get lost in obscurity of Las Vegas. It feels like when Joe Burrow was going to get drafted by the Bengals, and there was a bunch of people that said he should refuse to play for them. I remember thinking, like, well, what's Cincinnati supposed to do? Are they supposed to just throw their hands up and be like, yeah, we stink. We're not going to get any better. We'll let the kid play for the Dolphins. Us as organizations have an ability to get better, and we're trying to do that with Tom Brady in the building. And the Tom Brady of it all, if you don't think that this outside noise of him being a cheater, of him having an unfair advantage, of Ben Johnson shouldn't consider this roster because this is a joke. If you don't think he's going to let that fuel his fire, he's going to want Ben Johnson even more now. He's going to want him to sign the second the Detroit Lions lose in the playoffs or win the Super Bowl. He's going to want to have that press conference. He's going to want to sit right next to him because the season's going to be over. He's not going to have any broadcasting engagements. This is going to only push Tom Brady harder to get what he wants because he just needs this much. You saw The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. All you need was this. All you need is this to push these guys who are sick in the head over the edge to get whatever they want done. I'm going to read the comments now. Triple says, Jags fans remind me of Giants fans and Bears fans remind me of Charger fans. That's pretty interesting. He also follows it up with, is this the villain treatment I've heard the Raiders receiving in our glory days? I'm so used to them being the victim in my lifetime. Yeah, this isn't like, oh, poor Raiders, stay over there in the corner. This is like, we're going to let Ben Johnson go to the Raiders? I won't stand for this. He should go to Chicago, where they've had a lot of success 35 years ago. When's the last time the Chicago Bears were actually relevant? Seriously. Jim McMahon? The punky QB. Yeah, they had Jay Cutler and Josh McCown. I just read you the stats. Right? And then they'll say, like, well, if the rosters are the same, it has to be the coaching. It's like, yeah, the Bears fired Matt Eberflus and got worse. We had Antonio Pierce, a linebacker, who was never a coordinator in this league, and the Jags had a former Super Bowl champion. So you tell me who had the coaching advantage between the three teams. You tell me. And I stand by what I say 100%, that Max Crosby, maybe not Brock, because Brock is a rookie, we don't know. Max Crosby would be the best player on any of these three teams. Go to the Jags, he's the best player. Go to the Bears, he's the best player. Which is how I transition to my next topic. Max Crosby was on Good Morning Football, and he had a lot to say. And I saw some Raider fans be a little upset with what he had to say. So I'm going to take this opportunity to read Max Crosby's comments. We're going to put a little poll out here, and then we're going to discuss the future of the best player on the team. No doubt about it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Ben Johnson maybe being the next head coach, the future of the Raiders, and he talked about his contract. Let's talk about the contract first. Or no, we'll talk about the future of the Raiders. This is a quote from Max Crosby on Good Morning Football. Max said, I'm just focused on the day-to-day. A lot of things are out of my control, so I'm going to sit back and wait and see what happens. Right now, I'm focused on my rehab, and we'll take it one step at a time. Now, I saw some people say, I don't like that he's saying take it one step at a time. Guys, I think he's learned a lesson last year where he pulled a Rudy. He said, I'm handing in my jersey unless you give this guy the job, in Antonio Pierce. And Mark Davis listened to him and made his decision. It wasn't like Max Crosby was the only reason that AP got the job, but he was. And then it didn't go the way Max thought. And now I think he's taking a step back and be like, look, that's not my job. I think there's nothing wrong with that comment. He follows up by, where is this? He talks about Ben Johnson. Oh, okay. So I don't have the exact quote here, but he discusses Ben Johnson and he says, look, I just want to win. And you got to look at the stats and the history of coaches who won in this league. You got to look at what the Lions and Dan Campbell built with Ben Johnson. So that clearly seems like he's nudging an endorsement Ben Johnson's way without coming out explicitly and saying that. Because, again, he doesn't want to stick his neck out for somebody who might not turn out to be the guy that we all thought he might be, in Antonio Pierce. The last thing he said on his contract is, and this is the quote, I'm currently under contract, but I have no guaranteed money left, which is tough for a player, as physically gifted as him who plays all the time. That's tough to have no guaranteed money. There are a lot of things that need to be discussed. Regardless of that, I'm in a great place, and we're going to have those discussions real soon. Okay, here, Triple says, he said specifically, we'll see what happens with the coaching situation. Yeah. Right, which makes me think, this is what Triple says, he'll wait and see who we hire and what Ben Johnson's plan is. I also think if the Lions win the Super Bowl, Max loves Ben even more. Yes, no doubt about it. But the contract, he says, regardless, I'm in a great place. We're going to have those discussions real soon. Look, he can't say like, yep, I just want to be a Raider no matter what if we hire somebody that he doesn't love and this GM doesn't want to extend him. Maybe the GM comes in and goes, yeah, we're going to trade Max. Then it makes Max look like an idiot for being like, yeah, well, I'll be here forever. He has no guaranteed money left. So we need to get a GM, John Spytek, to come in here and evaluate the situation. And I foresee them extending Max Crosby. He is the best player the Raiders had since probably Khalil Mack, like homegrown Raider, one of the last selections of the Oakland Raiders. So my question to the squad is this. What is your confidence level that Max Crosby will be a Raider in 2025? Now, I'm going to reserve my answer because I don't want to sway anything. But in terms of what he said, comments-wise, I've got no issues with anything that he said. He's been nothing but an absolute grinder for this organization, the face of the organization since Derek Carr left. He's played every single snap. He's played against the Chiefs when he was doubtful. I'm pretty sure he's the only player 2 years ago to play off of a doubtful designation. I love Max. I absolutely love him to death. If he thinks, you know what? I need to see who the next head coach and GM are going to be. I need to discuss and talk to them and see what the DC says is best for me before signing a long-term deal to hitch his wagon to another regime change. There's no problems with that. There's absolutely no problems with that. David Derek Carr did say, he wants to retire a Raider. We'll see what happens this offseason. And I'm not saying that, like, please bring Derek Carr back, but I'm just saying, do not rule it out. It wasn't his decision to be cut from the team. He would have stayed on the Raiders if it was up to him, right? All that to say about Max, I'm probably somewhere between 170%ish. Like, look, never say never. I'd never thought Khalil Mack would be traded, and I'm in Florida, and I wake up and bang, Khalil Mack is a Bear. Hello, Chicago again. But I do think that Max's ultimate goal is to win a championship with the Raiders. I think he has that Kobe Bryant mentality of, like, one team. I want to fix it. I can be the guy to start this thing, right? And I think he knows how good our defense can be when everybody is healthy. Like, the injury bug for this defense last year was absolutely ridiculous. But I've seen a lot of Raider fans get upset with these comments, and I'm like, I think he's completely in line to say everything that he's saying and saying, I'm taking it one step at a time. Like, he can only say so many times, like, I want to be a Raider. Like, it's tattooed on his body, for God's sakes. I think Max will be a Raider. I'm pretty confident. If you ask me to put money on it, I wouldn't put a large amount of money on it, but I'd put money on it that he's going to be on the team next year. Now, there has been a lot of instability with the organization, no doubt about it, and coaches have come and gone. I'm going to close this poll. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I'm right in between the 70 and 100% range, which wasn't an option, so I feel like I'm cheating, but it is what it is. Now, there was an article. This article was on The Athletic, I believe. Of course, Next Effect. Thank you for the nice comment. This article was written by, I believe, Mike Sando. Yeah, via The Athletic. And this is a summary from Jack on Bleacher Report. So you guys can go to Bleacher Report and read this full article if you want to, but I'm going to read a little bit right here. Tom Brady is working to repair the Las Vegas Raiders' lackluster reputation. Mike Sando of The Athletic reported that across the NFL, the perception of the Raiders is that they are a, quote, floundering franchise and that Brady is attempting to bring vision and stability. Now, this is, by the way, this is Mike reporting what he's hearing, not giving his opinion like Schefter or Jordan Schultz. And the quote is, executives see the Raiders as a floundering franchise that pivots from one coach / philosophy to another coach every couple of years. They see new minority owner Tom Brady trying to bring vision and stability to the franchise. They also see Brady's credibility as a leading reason why the Lions' Ben Johnson might consider Las Vegas after the team fired AP and Tom Telesco. And then there's more to read there. I would say go read the whole thing because Jack did a great job in this article. And I don't want to steal all his thunder here. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of, and this is another thing. It's like Ben Johnson's going to sign a contract with the Raiders. They fire coaches left and right. Again, let's just talk about the facts, the reality of the situation, the facts. Because everyone now is super critical of Mark Davis for firing people every few years. Okay, so let's talk about what actually happened. He hired Jack Del Rio, right? It started to go well. They got rid of Bill Musgrave, their OC, for Todd Downing, fell off a cliff, and he went John Gruden. Does anybody remember, comment right now, what John Gruden's contract was? What was it? Was it 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Remember LeBron James, not 5, not 6. It was a 10-year contract. Whether or not that was the right move, that was a way to get this franchise to have a little bit of stability. 10 years. And what happened? The emails came out. That was, an audit on the Washington football team. Somehow John Gruden was the only one who got fired from that. It is what it is. The emails that he wrote were not good. I don't condone anything that John Gruden said. Those were horrible things that he said. A lot of the players wanted to keep him. Some wanted to let him go. Mark Davis was in an unforgivable situation. He fired him or he resigned or whatever. So we're not allowed to blame Mark Davis for firing John Gruden, right? Because that rebuild, whether you like it or not, was working. He stripped it down to the studs. He went 4 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, 10 wins. It was a gradual Lions type rebuild. The emails came out, they fired him. Rich Bisaccia, the interim, comes in, makes the playoffs. Josh goes, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to go real GM. No offense to Mike Mayock, Josh McDaniels. Now, at the time, a lot of people in the league said this was a great hire. And he gave Josh McDaniels 2 full drafts, 2 full free agencies, and a year and a half. And the Raiders went from a playoff team to a 6-win team that lost 9 one-score games. And then the next year, 3-5, and cut the face of the franchise, for better or worse, the guy who was on the podium when Henry Ruggs killed somebody, not Mark Davis. It was Derek Carr who was answering all those questions. Josh McDaniels ran him out of town, brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, who was benched midway through for a rookie 4th rounder. And they fired Josh McDaniels. Was that the wrong move to fire Josh McDaniels? Was that the wrong move? So now the next thing that happened, right, is, well, AP did a good job as the interim. And here we go again. The national media was pressuring him to hire Rich Bisaccia. He didn't do that. I can't make the same mistake twice. All the players, all my superstar players want AP in the building. I'm going to hire AP. And in one season, it all fell apart. Was it all Antonio Pierce's fault? Absolutely not. But the New England Patriots, who had a 5-year plan in place for Gerard Mayo to take over for Bill Belichick, won and dunned him because they knew there were better options out there. Are the Patriots floundering? No. And I'm not excusing Mark Davis for the bad decisions he's made hiring the people. But when he's fired them, it was either completely out of his hands or it was the right move. Because Antonio Pierce is on the market right now. Is he getting any head coaching jobs? Is anybody interviewing him? No. Who are people interviewing? Ben Johnson, who right now, like it or not, Chicago, is the leading candidate to get the Raiders job. There's an upgrade to be had from OJ Mayo, from Gerard Mayo to Mike Vrabel. So they won and done them. There's an upgrade to be had from Antonio Pierce to Ben Johnson. So they won and done him. Not really, though, because he had half of last year. So in what universe are any of these firings the wrong move? Should he have given Josh McDaniels another full season? By the way, Dave Ziegler wanted C.J. Stroud. Josh McDaniels wanted Bryce Young. There is a small argument to be made that maybe he should have given Antonio Pierce another year, but not when Tom Brady goes, I can get you Ben Johnson. All that goes out the window the second that happens. Even Pete Carroll, if he comes knocking on your door, sorry, Pete, 2-time Super Bowl head coach, not winning, but coaching 2 of them. We're going to roll with AP. But the reputation is that Mark Davis flip-flops. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I'm going to leave it at that. So look, this was a hostile episode. Not boring. And hopefully, Raider fans have a better understanding of where they sit with the Ben Johnson of it all. Why some of these national media guys, and by the way, it's the minority of people. It's like 3 people. It's 3 people. Jeremy Fowler, Schultz, Scheffner. Everybody else, James Palmer, Pelissero, Florio, Dan Patrick, Rappaport, all said, yeah, Ben Johnson feels like the guy. If he doesn't take the Raiders job, I promise you, it is not going to be because the media people talked to his agent and said, you shouldn't take that job, Benny boy. And Mark Davis, the flip-flopper, apparently, is doing everything he can to right this ship by bringing in Tom Brady. And I talked about yesterday, it's an unfair advantage. I said it yesterday. If you were the inventors of Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. If you had the ability to have Tom Brady be a part of your front office, you would have done it, and you didn't, and Mark Davis did. Sorry, is what it is. That's the reality. Thank you so much for watching this. We're about to hit 30 minutes flat. So I want to wait until the clock ticks 5 more seconds. If you were watching on Bleacher Report, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, hit that like button. Make sure we're hitting that subscribe button. It is free out there, no charge to you. I love you guys. And I'll see you next time.